Thank you so much for inviting me to speak to you today about Aparigraha, or non-greed, non-hoarding, and sharing your abundance. Aparigraha is the fifth and last Yama in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali that I have been teaching you about in the previous videos. The Yamas and Niyamas are contained in this book, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and they begin to be talked about in Book 2, Sutra 29. So if you're interested, go out and get yourself a copy and study them for yourself. See what you think. So Aparigraha, or non-greed, is a very useful skill to develop. As we start to understand our global community better, and we start to experience the reality of how small our planet Earth actually is, and how many of us are sharing this beautiful Earth together. Aparigraha, or non-greed, the root of greed and hoarding is oftentimes fear that there's not enough. Fear that there's a lack of resources and there's not enough to go around. This is a natural bias of our minds, but it's not reality. Many of you might be familiar with the Gandhi quote where he said, "There is a sufficiency for man's need, but not for man's greed." And as we continue to grow in our human population, as we start to expand and grow on this planet, we're starting to understand that on a very practical level. You know, there are a lot of predictions that if we do not learn to share globally, that there could come a time in the future where we might not have the abundance of food that we need for all of the people who are inhabiting our planet. But if we learn to share our resources globally, then that includes ideas, so open sourcing ideas, sharing our abundance. Aparigraha doesn't need to be about sharing things that we do not have enough of. It's more about sharing the things that we have in abundance. So if we have financial resources in abundance, we share that. If we have wisdom in abundance, we share that. If we have unconditional, consensual friendships, we share that, and connections. There's so many possibilities of sharing that are not only related to financial resources, although that is one, and that is an important one as well. So when I think about Aparigraha, I often think about Sweden, and I think about their word lagom, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but this concept of having just the right amount. So that word came from the time when the farmers in Sweden were sharing their food and their resources, and they realized the importance of taking enough, just enough for yourself, but leaving enough for everyone else. And this to me speaks to the truth behind Aparigraha, is learning to take enough to sustain your own health and well-being, to sustain your family, to sustain your country, but not taking more than you need. Learning to share with the rest of the global community, because we are one global family. Anyone who is even remotely involved in genetics and the DNA resources that are available in the world today can see all the beautiful connections that we have. And if you can trace the matrilineal line, I'm told that we are all related to that same one female 180,000 years ago. Now, you may or may not believe in time in that same capacity, so don't get caught up on that portion, but just focus on the truth that we are all one family, we are all connected, we're only a few degrees of separation from each other, and as a global human family, it would behoove us to share our resources as much as we possibly can. So the other day I was sharing some information with my oldest daughter, who's 32. My middle daughter's 25 and my baby's 18. And then I have 3 grandchildren. But I was sharing with my oldest daughter, and my 8-year-old grandson piped up in the background and said, "Sharing is caring." And I don't know where he heard that from, but I definitely taught that concept to my children as they were growing up. The importance of, again, asteya, remember respecting boundaries, the importance of saying no when you're feeling no, but also the value of sharing our abundance with others. Now, the sharing is caring quote is a little bit tricky because, if we have a cold or the flu, maybe we don't want to share that. So perhaps we could say sharing in a way that is kind and useful and beneficial to the other person. Many times I check my actions against 3 things. Does it benefit someone and harm no one, including myself? So making me and the other equal, and within that vein, is what I'm doing helping genuinely or genuinely supportive. So when we're thinking about sharing, we want to be sure that we're sharing what is useful and what is helping the other person. So this concept to me is key in our growth as a global family and as citizens of the world, both honoring and respecting our country of origin and hopefully being able to take pride in the country that we live in, but also recognizing that we are all in this together. All of us are existing in the same home, our Mother Earth. And so we want to consider that as we're thinking about the resources that we have available and what we're willing to share. And when we hoard, we all lose because the individual comes from a place of fear and contraction. And when we feel fear and contraction, sometimes that will cause a sense of separation. And as human beings, we're mammals. And we like to have connection. We like to live in tribes, but we want to be with people who we share values with, people that uplift us and inspire us, and that we are feeling like simpatico with, that we understand, and we don't have too many conflicts. A little bit of conflict is sometimes good because it can promote growth, but not a violent conflict. Remember ahimsa, the non-harming. We want even our differences to be communicated with loving kindness and in a gentle way. So back to Aparigraha. Learning to share what we have will help us retain a more peaceful, joyful place within our own heart and our own lives. By sharing, we feel a connection with those around us, so we don't feel isolated. We feel like we have our people that we are connected to, whether it's locally or globally. So I encourage you, if you can, discover what you have in abundance. Maybe it's the ability to create music, the ability to create art. Maybe you have a skill to be able to repair things. Again, wisdom, compassion, loving kindness. Who knows what you have in abundance? And share that as freely as you're able to, so long as it brings benefit to at least one person. So again, thank you so much for joining me on this 5-part series about the Yamas that you can find in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And if you have enjoyed these 5 videos, please feel free to come visit me and my family in Yogaville anytime. I look forward to seeing you here. I'll end with a short prayer. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May the entire creation be filled with peace and joy, love and light.